It is with great honor we welcome a true Renaissance woman, one of the most important people in literature, a poet, educator, historian, best-selling writer, actress, playwright, civil rights activist, producer, director, and musician, the one and only Dr. Maya Angelou. On behalf of our listening audience, thank you so very much, Dr. Angelou, for joining us. Everyone has a mentor, so I was hoping you could tell us about Mrs. Bertha Flowers.
I met her when I was very, very young, but I got to know her when I was about almost 8. I lived in a very small town, and I had an abuse, and as a result, I had stopped speaking. I thought that my voice had been instrumental in killing a man, and so I thought it was wiser not to speak. That was my 7-year-old logic. So Mrs. Flowers heard about me. She was a black lady in our town. And she came to the store where my grandmother owned a small store. She came and got me and took me up to the school and took me into the school library, the black school. There may have been 200 books, I don't know. I know I have more books in my small library today than in that little school. But it seemed like millions of books. And she said, I want you to read every one of them. And read a few and then make notes, and when I come back, I'll talk to you about it. And then she took me to her house about twice a year. She'd make tea cookies and wonderfully sweet lemonade. And then she'd read to me. She introduced me to literature and really began my lifelong love of reading, of writing too, and of being read to. I think every human being wants to be read to. I still like it, and I'm 80 years old. And that all began with Mrs. Flowers.
Very inspiring. In regards to you becoming an artist, there is a quote from you that I appreciate. You said, "You can become truly accomplished at something you love." Some of our listeners may not know that in the beginning you started in the music and arts with dance. What attracted you to that?
I didn't have to talk. I was very tall. My brother, who was older than I, and my mentor, was very short. And he told me that I was a lady, and I was supposed to speak softly. And he was to hold the door for me. I don't know where he read that, but he said that he was supposed to push the chair up when I sat down. And because I was so tall, he said I shouldn't bend over. I shouldn't slouch. I should stand straight up. And he encouraged me to study dance. So when we returned to California, I was 13 and about 5'10". My brother suggested that I study dance. And there was the Booker T. Washington Community Center in San Francisco. So I started studying there and went on to the California Labor School and studied with adults and really fell in love with dance. And I'm still in love with dance. Those loves you have, your first love, never really leave you. You still fantasize. And I believe I could become 800 years old and 300 pounds. I would still dance. My bones will not let me forget that I still love dance.
Very interesting. That brings us to Calypso music. You became a great Calypso singer. I was hoping you could tell us what it is you liked about Calypso music.
I don't know about great. I became known as a Calypso singer. And I have no modesty, none at all. I pray I have humility. There's a difference. Modesty is tacked on from the outside. Humility comes from inside. And it says that there was someone before me who laid the path. My responsibility was to try to build a road. I was well known as a Calypso singer. And because I could dance, I would often dance in the middle of a song. And I think that made me very unusual. I love Calypso the way I love blues and country western music. Because the Calypso, the lyrics tell stories. They're not just about "I love you, baby" and let's make love or something rawer than that. So the Calypso, each one tells a story of, and such a human story. That's what drew me to it.
It is a fascinating genre of music.
It is indeed.
In your book, Singing and Swinging and Getting Merry Like Christmas, you write about singing in church services. What kind of music did you like growing up?
I loved all sorts, and still do. I loved when I could hear European classical music and the American classical music, which must include jazz and spirituals and folk songs and country music songs. I loved it all. I had the pleasure of hearing Miss Marian Anderson on the radio. I couldn't believe a human voice could be so beautiful. And my grandmother loved to hear a song, a West Country song called "You Are My Sunshine." And it was the only non-religious song she ever sang that I knew of. And I could remember that husky voice of hers singing it around the house, along with Pilgrim of Sorrow and other spiritual songs. As soon as I heard blues, I was about 13 because I moved back to be with my mother, and she loved blues. And as soon as I heard the blues, I loved them. Even today, I still want to have that song which tells a story, that lyric, whether written by the traditional folk music, that is, or written by Irving Bertie. I love to hear those. And I loved Lord Cleave and Lord Kitchener. But all of them, I just enjoyed them.
Dr. Angelou, some people may not know that the name of Maya Angelou was adapted around the time you started your singing career. Tell us how you got started with Calypso on a professional level.
I was a dancer, and I met some very sophisticated people, artists in San Francisco, and they would laugh at folk music. I think all music is folk music. And then they said that folk music was boring. And I said, no, listen to this. And I sang Ranjo, 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 Pooties holding me hand. And Mo and Joe ran a candy store. And Mo did something behind the door. The police came. And they were brothers. And so the one said, Ranjo, trying to hold the police and protect his brother. And I just loved it. So when I sang it to them, they said, what? They hadn't even heard Calypso. So I sang another. Oh, I sang around to a few groups, and I was offered a job as a Calypso singer. So I had to quickly go and try to learn some more. I think I had maybe 3. It's not a very large repertoire. I spent about 2 business of learning some more. And I opened in the Purple Onion in San Francisco as Maya Angelou's Calypso singer.
Well, speaking of the Purple Onion, where you performed, that was during the time of the Calypso explosion. I feel like Calypso is a very overlooked genre of music today. I think it's still very relevant. It's a great blend of different styles of music. And we had the opportunity to welcome Mr. Irving Bertie, who you just mentioned, and he told us a lot about the Calypso explosion. And you reviewed his autobiography. Why do you think America embraced Calypso so much?
Well, it was exotic. It had humor. Also, it was sung by one of the most handsome human beings we've ever produced, and that was Harry Belafonte. Belafonte was not just handsome. He had an air. He had a presence. And he was irresistible. And with that voice and his rhythm, he just brought it right through. And then there was the genius of Irving Bertie. Lord Burgess was his name. He really wrote some irresistible songs. It was time for it. There was just a time. landscape needed that particular plant to grow.
You later joined the Porgy and Bess tour and got to do a lot of traveling. You have said you regarded that tour as pivotal in your life. I was hoping you could tell us about that.
Well, I learned, among other things, that human beings are more alike than we are unalike. Very important knowledge. The phrase is apt. The travel broadens one. It literally does, especially if you keep your eyes open and your ears and your heart. You learn, oh, I see. In Yugoslavia, we act the same way as we act in Greece, in Morocco. Okay, I didn't know that. And you mean the people in Turkey act the same way as they do in Mozambique and in Little Rock, Arkansas. My goodness, it was pivotal in that it opened my thinking. I cannot find myself a stranger if I'm among human beings anywhere in the world.
We have that much more in common than that what separates us.
Everybody in the world, Mr. Leslie, who wants a job, wants a good job, wants to be paid a little more than he's worth, not enough to be embarrassed, just enough to say, boy, I'm really making it over now. Everybody in the world wants to be needed, wants to be respected in the work, and to be told this is really a good job you're doing. Everybody in the world wants to have safe streets, even the people who make the streets unsafe. Everybody in the world wants to fall in love and to have the unmitigated gall to accept love in return. Everybody in Bosnia, in Berkeley, in Boston. Everybody in the world wants to have some place to propitiate God on a Sunday, Sunday morning, Saturday, whenever the people meet, if they're religious at all. Everybody wants to have children. If they want children, that is. They want to have healthy children. Now that's true in Paris, Texas, or Paris, France. You see?
So true.
And someplace to party on Saturday night. Everybody.
Jumping back to the music, when you returned from the tour, you began performing Calypso in California, and you recorded a record called Miss Calypso, which we're going to play on this program, and you were featured in the musical film Calypso Heatwave. Could you tell us about the making of the album?
Gosh, you've really done your homework.
Thank you.
I was asked to make the album. I was invited. And then I was told that I had to write some of the songs, and if I didn't, I couldn't make the album. So I wrote, I think, 6 of them. I myself haven't heard that music in 20 years or more. But I wrote the songs and sang them and did the whole album in a week. I haven't even thought about the album those many years.
It's still around.
Yes, I know if you're going to say something.
Going forward, you have written with the legendary Miss Roberta Flack, and you've worked on a number of music projects after your Calypso album. You did an album with the great duo Ashford and Simpson, and recently a great writer, Mr. Ben Harper, he changed a few of the words around, but he did a song called I Still Rise. I was hoping you could tell us about working with Ashford and Simpson on that album.
I feel of them as if they're my children. So down here in North Carolina visiting me. I think Nick went down into playing around in the music room. And I went down and Val went down. And we were just talking to the music. And then Val sat down at the piano. And Nick and I talked to the music. And we sort of had a song. And we just continued. Really not thinking about doing an album or anything. And then they came down to visit me in Georgia and Atlanta. And we continued. And before you knew it, we had a music. And it's a good CD. It really is. I'm very proud of it. It was unfortunate it never really caught on because it didn't get the exposure. We did Oprah, but the record company didn't have the records out in the stores. They said they would, but they didn't. And so the people who rushed out to get their CDs, they weren't there and weren't there for another 2 weeks. And by that time, the fever had gone. You know, there's a rhythm in the affairs of men and women. And if that rhythm loses a beat, the mind goes on to other things.
I'm always amazed at the power of words, whether in poem or song. And Dr. Angelou, you are certainly a woman who has harnessed the power of words. Can you point to any one poem in your life that you read and related to greatly, and you found to have that power?
I started first thinking of Paul Laurence Dunbar, who still impresses me, who wrote the majority of his work in the late 1800s, a few things in the 1900s before he died, at an early age. Mr. Dunbar, writing in standard English and in the English of the plantation, wrote about the human being, the suffering, the laughter, the emotion, just everything. So he impressed me and impresses me still. In fact, his poem called Sympathy, from that poem I took the title of 2 books. And he wrote it about 1893 or 4. And they're just 3 verses. And the first one is, I know what the cage bird feels when the sun is bright on the upland slope, when the wind blows soft through the springing grass, and the river flows like a sheet of glass, when the first bird sings, and the first bud opes, and the faint perfume from its chalice steals. I know what the cage bird feels. I know why the cage bird beats its wings till its blood is red on the quill bar. Why it must fly back to its perch and cling when its aim would be on the bower swing. And the blood still throbs in the old scars. It pulses again with a keener sting. I know why it beats its wings. And I know why the cage bird sings when its wings are bruised and its bosom sore. It beats its bars and would be free. It's not a carol of joy or glee, but a prayer that it sends from its heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven it sings. I know by the cage bird sings. And from that poem I took the title of my first autobiography and the title of my sixth and the last one in that series, A Song Flung Up to Heaven.
Thank you so much for reciting that poem. That was lovely.
Thank you so much for allowing me to say the whole thing.
What is it you like about poetry, whether it's written, spoken, or set to a melody in song?
It tells the human story. It tells us about our weeping and our laughing and our cowardice and our courage. That's what I like about it.
You've had the opportunity to meet some wonderful people. Who among them sticks out in your mind as...
No, sir. Don't forgetting somebody or overlooking someone who's so important. No. I've learned something from a number of people, some who meant me well and some who didn't. I'm grateful to be alive and grateful to have friends, grateful to have students and a large family of every kind of person. When we have a family reunion, we are black and white and Asian, Our family reunions include Muslims and Jews and fat people and thin people, pretty people and plain people, gay people and straight. It is my blessing to have met and loved a lot and still daring to love a lot. I dare not speak of any one person.
I actually think that's a great answer. The final question I have for you, this program is going out all over the world. So my last question, what would you, Dr. Maya Angelou, like to say to the world? What would you like to say to all of those people listening in?
I wish you peace. I believe in the heart of every human being, no matter how cantankerous he or she is, how bellicose and warlike. I believe in the secret heart. There's a desire for peace. I believe we can be peacemakers. I believe we can even be peace bringers. We don't have to wait till we arrive at the destination to make peace. I think we can bring it in our hearts and in our hands. I wish you peace and laughter and love.
Very well spoken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nestor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angelou. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, and the same. Bye.
Bye-bye.